Bon dia, and welcome to Biking Barcelona, where we explore the delights and frustrations of cycling in our city. Or at least we will. This is actually our first video, so we haven't done any of those things yet. But if you stick around, I promise we'll do them all together.
Deciding what to share with you on this first ride was tough. Do we start with some of our favorite bits of bike infra? Or do we jump straight to the horrors that inspired this project? And that's really the story of biking in Barcelona. This won't be a channel filled with the nightmares of navigating a car-centric North American city by bike. But it also won't be a non-stop paean to people-first design like you might get from the Netherlands. Barcelona sits somewhere in between. In the last few years, the city has made a large and sincere effort to shift itself away from its car-filled past. The superblock projects are probably the most famous, and I'm sure we'll be doing a video or two about those at some point. But there's also a lot of car calming and bicycle infra popping up all over town. And many of those changes have been impressively transformational. But others, whether because they had to be retrofitted and grafted onto existing realities, or just because of baffling decision-making, have resulted in some very awkward, uncomfortable, and incomplete solutions. That's why we think biking in Barcelona is so interesting. It's not a perfect model to copy, but it is an ongoing experiment in how to get a city from car to human-centric, both in design and culture.
But that's enough introduction. We've just turned onto the street we're going to explore today.
We are biking Avinguda de Josep Tarradellas. Now, Tarradellas was the president in exile. When the dictatorship was over and he was allowed to come back, he gave a speech from the government house balcony where he said, "Citizens of Catalonia, I am here." And that's pretty much all his contribution to this country.
Now, the first thing you'll notice if you're from most places is that we have an actual cycle path here separate from car traffic. And in fact, we've been on a separate cycle path pretty much our whole ride here too. But, especially if you're from the Netherlands, you'll also notice that that separation consists of nothing more than these weird low rubber humps. These rubber humps are pretty much standard for cycle path separation here in Barcelona. You see them everywhere. I think these particular ones are actually a slightly older model, as newer paths seem to be using a slightly different design. We definitely have mixed feelings about these. The second thing you'll notice is that we are riding to the left of car traffic. That too is incredibly common here. We also have right-hand paths, two-way paths to the side of traffic, and even some two-way paths down the median. But left-hand cycle paths, like this one, make up a lot of the network here. You see them both on streets like this one, with a wide pedestrian promenade in the median, as well as on a lot of the one-way streets in Eixample. They definitely threw me for a loop when I first saw them, and I'm still not entirely used to them. We'll go over more how they work and don't work when we explore the Eixample district, but on this street, I can mostly understand the logic. Street parking was able to remain without any changes, and because of the wide pedestrian promenade down the center, there are only limited opportunities for cars to turn left or to cross the avenue from side streets.
Now, here's something that I find especially challenging. All of you bicycle infrastructure nerds have kind of memorized every possible type of intersection that exists in the world. And when you arrive to one, you seemingly know already what to do, where to go, how to proceed. But that's not me. I'm just a commuter. And as such, I really need that every intersection is signaled really, really clearly. So when I arrive, it's very clear to me where to go, how to proceed, how to get to the other side. And this one intersection was the perfect example of just the opposite.
So Anna is going to bike the actually intended, but poorly signaled, path for cyclists to cross this massive intersection. while I am going to go the way 90% of cyclists actually cross it. I've put up a map to help you follow along. I'm the black circle and Anna's the yellow one to match our helmets. At first, my way seems entirely reasonable. There was no clear indication that I shouldn't just proceed forward. Until I got here. Which sort of feels like the right place to stop and wait for this light, but also feels incredibly exposed, and you suddenly realize that there are no actual markings for bicycles, let alone protection or anything else. And you start to wonder, is this where I'm actually supposed to be? Which is never a great feeling as a cyclist. And you start to think back on all your life choices, trying to figure out how you got here, where you might have gone wrong in life. But looking around, there isn't an obvious alternative. Even the path Anna is taking over there is poorly marked and you can't really see it from here. So you figure the bike path designer just forgot to put down some paint needed to mark your lane here, which isn't great, but at least you think, okay, I am supposed to be here. But no, once the light turns green and you precariously cross this sea of asphalt, the way you rejoin the cycle path here makes you realize that this wasn't what you were supposed to do at all. But it still isn't obvious how you were supposed to get here. It really feels like the path designer didn't so much forget to put down paint for this intersection as just forgot to design a way through it altogether. We're actually going to go through the same intersection now, going the other direction, because one, in a way it's even more bonkers, and two, you'll actually get to see the route that Anna just took a little bit better. That's right, going the other direction, you have to cross all the way over to take the same poorly signed detour. Not only is this needlessly long and circuitous, but it also involves significantly more street crossings, which means both more waiting at stoplights and more interactions and potential conflicts with cars. As a cyclist, you really feel forgotten and ignored here, which is especially frustrating because the rest of the cycle path on this street is quite pleasant and enjoyable.
Now you can see what you couldn't see before when Yedidia and I split in the intersection. Now we are taking the intended path, and how do we know this is the one? Well, it has this kind of sidewalk sharrows painted here on the sidewalk with kind of blurry and almost invisible paint. But hey, at least that's something. I think that something that would help here is if they painted the bicycle like trajectory with a strong color, so we cyclists would know in this intersection how to get around, because it's not easy at all. I also think that this would help pedestrians foresee that for few meters of the sidewalk they would have to share the sidewalk with us, and it would make it easier for everyone to be aware of what's happening.
Okay, now back in the direction we were going before.
We are biking Avinguda de Tarradellas from north to south. We started in Plaza Macià, which is a huge roundabout full of bicycle complications that we will cover in future videos. Macià was also a president, but unlike Tarradellas, Macià actually served in office during Spain's Second Republic in the early 30s.
At the end of the avenue, the bike lane splits, forcing you to go either to the right or to the left. To get to the train station across from you, you have to go to the right. In fact, even if your plan was to go down Carrer Tarragona to Plaza España, which appears to be to your left, you still have to go to the right here. Because if you go to the left, you'll be forced up Carrer Provenza, away from where you were probably intending to go. Which would be fine if either of these signs actually told you that.
Our trip ends in the Sants train station. Sants is the central train station of Barcelona, and here you can take trains, both commuter trains to suburban locations, but also high-speed rail and trains to other parts of Spain, as well as to France and beyond.
That's it for our ride today. Let us know what you think in the comments. Especially since we're just starting out, we really appreciate the feedback. And of course, hit like and subscribe to follow along with the rest of the journey. But for now, thank you and adeu.
Fins aviat. See you soon.